All right. Wow. It's nice to meet you finally.
Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. And tell me your full name again and how you pronounce it because I'm not sure if I understood it correctly.
Okay, it's Yeliz Shukri.
Shukri.
Yes.
And you are?
I am an Australian Cypriot who speaks Turkish and is learning to speak Greek.
Wow. That's why the good English.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, good. I am Elena.
Yes.
Fitikidu is my maiden name from
Fitikidu.
Famagusta. And my last name is Alonefti.
It's a nice surname.
Thanks.
It's got a very, it's melodic.
Never thought about it like
It
this.
is actually. I like the way it's written as well. Very nice. So when did you get involved in film and why?
I studied
studied
film
where?
In the States, at Iowa State, but I did for television.
Okay.
And it took a very long process for me to get into documentaries. And but it's a very long story, and I love all kinds of filming and all kinds of experimental animation, things like that. But my love is documentary. How about you?
And I'm going to get back to that because I think there's a drive, a different kind of drive to documentary, and there's the reasonings why you moved into that genre. I knew I'd be in media when I was a young child. I always, had a thing for research, and I had a thing for, film and TV. But in Australia, you have to be very specific as well, just like you studied TV. So, you had to study that field and stick to that field in a way. So I studied media, which is very broad, and then I studied sound engineering. But in the meantime, I was working TV stations and radio stations, etc. So I had a lot of experience doing lots of different things. And then when I came to Cyprus, I moved more into TV, but then I found that it wasn't actually giving me the creative outlet that I needed. I wanted, because TV is you need to be quick. You need to film something and edit it quickly because it's almost like a mass production in so many ways. Even though I do try my best to put in that, additional feeling and an additional research, of course, but with documentary, you have the time to go deep.
Oh, yes, yeah. I was in the States. I worked at a TV station in the news. And then when I left and I came to Cyprus, I worked for a production company, Lumiere Services, which we did all kinds of things. And then when I left from there, I went again back into television, and I wanted to kill myself because, this is the truth. There's nothing, you cannot even think about what you're doing at some time. And I know what you're saying about the pace. So for me, it was like, I cannot do this. And it only lasted for probably a year and a half. And then I left, and similar to you, I like so much people and the environment. And I'm an activist. And I like art. So I try to combine all these two together. So I'm here also for this purpose.
I think that's the outlet that documentary gives you. I really feel that, now after my documentary, my last documentary, I don't know how you feel about when you start one. For me, it's such a creative outlet, but it needs to be a subject that touches me very deeply because I know it's going to take a lot of energy and a lot of me to produce it, to make it. And things with documentary don't always go to plan, as we all know.
Exactly.
So you need to be very dedicated. Yeah. So, when you did your documentary about the alcoholism, was there a trigger for you in terms of why you wanted to make that in particular?
My children. Yeah. My daughter, who was 16 and was driving us crazy. It was really hard. Yeah. It was really hard because I didn't know what to do, and I couldn't find anybody who could give me a decent answer in terms of, how I should take care of that, if I should help her, if I should allow her to experiment, how much, if it was okay to drink, if I discovered that she would drink it, what would I do? So I got really upset because there's not help, not even from the government. While in other countries, I discovered, searching on the internet, that There are many, many, many ways you can find answers to your questions. Especially Australia, now that you're talking, they're very good, perhaps because they have huge problems with alcohol, and England and Ireland and other countries, but here nothing yet. There are no policies on this subject. So I started researching. It took me 5 years to make that film, but because I wasn't trained to do documentaries properly, especially creative documentaries, I ended up researching it, and then I approached it from an activist point of view. So it wasn't meant to be sent to festivals. But the good thing about it is, I mean, besides what I've learned through the years, which is priceless, I would say, the government got interested, and we almost signed a contract to be screened in schools, which was very, very important. And also the Pedagogical Institute, they saw it and they embraced it, and then COVID came. So I don't know how this will progress, but hopefully people will see the film and get something out of it. I think there is something especially for parents and for children to understand.
That outlet is important, to give a room for people to have that conversation and to bring it up, to discuss with your children. It's so important.
How did you get involved with the story? How did you find out about Fetine's story?
It was a story that we had heard from our elders, and I had read a book and was very interested back then about it. And I always said, okay, this is something that I definitely would want to research further and look into. And I left it there. And I'm kind of someone who believes that, if something is, not supposed to happen, but, if you're on the right track, things usually follow through. And I mean, at the same time, a very close friend of mine had made a joke on Facebook and said, my great aunt was also, sold, and I asked my mum, and she kind of shunned me, and she made it very lighthearted. But I kind of grabbed that little conversation, and I wrote to her separately and said, are you interested in finding her? And she said, well, yeah. And I said, okay, do you really want to find her? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, we'll find her, but I'm going to film you in the process.
Wow, that's
incredible. It started like that.
Yes.
I don't know if she fully believed how serious I was, but the fact that she was also serious, because again, it comes to documentary. If the people who are in the film don't change their mind midway, you're stuck. You have to, because documentary, you can't write a script and stick to that script. I mean, I've been to many workshops where they want a script at the beginning, which I've always, to this day, after doing so many documentaries and being in the field, still find it strange that they ask for that, because especially if you're not doing something that's being reenacted. I mean, we're basically finding out things as we go along. So
but documentary now goes into fiction, and fiction mingles, so they're kind of becoming interwoven. They are.
I mean, for mine, it was it was a bit reversed, because I didn't know what I would find. So in a way, I want to set it out like this. I might add reenactments, and I might do this and this. But all of that depends on what I find out as well. So I mean, we didn't expect to, find information so quickly. So things changed and developed differently, so we had to follow through in different ways. But I mean, the protagonist was also very important, because if they are not 100% in, then you have to change the film. I mean, everything that you may have planned, goes out the door in many ways. I mean, I had another documentary that I was planning not long after Fetine's release, and the people were a little bit nonchalant. They would be, yes, let's do it, but I'm very busy. It needs to be part of your, for us, it's part of our lives, because, we work as directors, as mothers, as, wives, as part of the community. We have different things that we're doing, as well as the documentary. But the person who's in the documentary needs to want to do it as well. Something that you can't force it upon them, or, they're not paid actors. So there has to be a need for them to find a resolution.
But your protagonist was great because she kept pushing the story forward, and you could see that.
If she wasn't like that, it wouldn't work out.
Yes, yeah. And,
absolutely.
You know, it's interesting because I felt through your film that you were a part of the film. You weren't just a director who took a story and you saw through it. I mean, you worked on it professionally. You were part of the film, and it shows in your film. And kudos to you about that. I like that very much.
Thank you. I actually, you know what I want to say. When I was filming, I realized that I was away from my children for certain amounts of time. Okay, not long, because when I was taking time away to film, I was always taking away from my own social life. You know, I would try to minimize my absence from my children, but there was a guilt as well when I was away from my children. And I mean, this, in a way, maybe comes across in the film as well, because it is dealing with women and girls and motherhood. So there were so many layers in that film that, of course, I think it's very obvious that a woman also made the film, whether it be me or not, but it was made by a woman, because there were certain elements that were so important to touch on. And like, I remember saying this once to a woman, and I said, you know, I did feel some, you know, whether it be guilt. And she turned around, and I love what she said. She goes, "Don't feel guilt." She said, "You sit your kids down and you make them watch the film, and you say, when your mum was not here, this is what she was doing." And I was like, yeah. Yes, because the activism side again, because I mean, all right, you want to do everything. You want to be perfect mum, you want to be perfect director, you want to be perfect, you know, friend. You want to do everything perfect. We're not. No one is. So instead of trying to aim for perfection, I try to be as realistic as possible, you know. So I don't say to my kids, okay, if I'm going out with my friends, okay, I'm going to work, you know, because mums don't go out. I'm going to meet my friends. Or, Mum, why are you going out to meet your friends? I'm going out because you need to see your friends. You need a break. And mums need that too. And when you grow up, you need to do that too. So
it's very interesting what you're saying, because this year the applications for film, you know, to create projects, there were, I think 40% of the applicants were women as producers and 13% as directors. It always makes me wonder, because it's easier to work as a producer from home. You can organize things on the phone, on the computer. You don't have to be on location all the time, unless if you're also doing the production manager. But a lot of producers usually just do production. And I say, yeah, it's easier for a woman to do that. Why are the percentages so low for women directors? And I know we have great women directors in Cyprus, and they have great skills and great abilities, and with very good applications. But it always makes me wonder why it's like that. And we can see that internationally. I think the percentages are about like that.
I think it's obvious.
I
mean, no one likes to say, but you know, where there's a slogan, "Where are the women?" I'm like, well, they're probably at home feeding the kids and bathing them, and not to say that, okay, oh, you know, she's a feminist and she, you know, is going to slam all the men, and it's not that. It's part of society. We put it on ourselves. Women put it on us. You know, even women do it to other women. Yani we were brought up, I mean, especially with Cypriots, and I look at it, you know, we were brought up to be educated. You know, our parents want us to be educated. I see this in, you know, in whether it be the Turkish-speaking or Greek-speaking communities. You know, families want their kids to get a good education. But then after you get your education, it becomes a bit confused. Yeah. Because, okay, I want you to have a career. I want you to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. How about at the same time, I want you to be a perfect mother, a perfect, you know, a woman in society and whatnot. And then these things get blurred, these lines, because you as a woman, okay, I also want to do everything I do in the best way I can, but how much of you can you divide in how many ways?
Do you think this is changing, though? I mean, or you don't... Depends.
Not quick enough. In the 70s, women were burning bras, and how much have we actually progressed since then? Because when I look at it, I mean, we should, at this stage, and we're talking 2022, we should have in certain institutions childcare. We should have, you know, a childcare available for all working women. But do we? We don't. It's all, you know, privatized childcare. Everything is with additional money. If you don't have your, okay, here the difference is most people have their mother or their mother-in-law looking after their children. I mean, I think a great percentage do. But what happens if you don't? Then what
Did
do
you
do?
have support when you were making your film?
No.
Really?
No.
Oh.
So
Wow, that's difficult.
I didn't have support in this sense. My husband is great, and you know, we're very equal in many ways. But when my children were very young, they used to go to a babysitter at her house.
Yeah. How old were your children when you were making the film?
I was pregnant with my second child during editing.
Okay.
And my first was probably 3 years old.
Those are difficult ages. Mine were teenagers, so that was easier in that way. But
it was difficult. I mean, because with documentary, like I said, I mean, you don't ever actually leave the subject. I'm breastfeeding my children, and I'm thinking, should I put that scene next, or should I cut there and then? And it's constantly on my mind, you know, because it's something that it means, especially when you're trying to be socially responsible as well. I mean, you want to. It's not just okay. It's a fiction film, so I can just make it up as I go along. Documentary has huge responsibility as well. So you want to be able to. You need to do the right research. You need to be able to look at, you know, different sides of the story and present that, you know, it's not just okay, it's a simple storyline, this is it, and you know, I'll do. I felt that weight on me as well, to be honest. I mean, in so many ways that I sometimes think I should just go into fiction and just, you know, make up a story. I was real back into.
But it's amazing though. What did you discover, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, we had in Embusa, in the film I made about alcohol and teenagers. One of the teenagers is still a very good friend, and he's amazing the way the film impacted him as a young adult. And he was 17, and by the time we finished, and he was screened. I mean, we still spoke when he was 21, and you see them grow and actually take into account what they've learned, what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And at the beginning, they were all, you know, kind of being themselves, but not necessarily very honest through the process, not because they're not honest children, but because they didn't know how to allow themselves to be themselves.
Sure.
So afterwards, the amazing thing is that I saw these children grow into an area of them anyway was touched. And for me, learning about this subject, because it's a subject I didn't know anything about, so I had to thoroughly research it and get in touch with people. I got to know a lot of, you know, the way the government works, the way the psychologists and people who treat people with alcohol and all that. So it was also it was like an education for me. It's like I was taking another degree in a way.
Sure.
Especially for this subject. And we went and found an expert in England and filmed him. And through research, I realized that actually this guy was very well known worldwide about the subject. So
why England? Why did you not find an expert in Cyprus? I was actually
there are no
curious.
experts in Cyprus about the subject, not experts on alcohol and on how to treat young people. Because being an adult and drinking is completely different than being a child drinking. And also we have these habits in Cyprus, like, okay, drink a little bit on the table. It's okay to drink here and there, because the parents, they don't do it because they mean badly. It's just they're trying to help the kids control their drinking. Or to get familiar, not control their drinking, because obviously they don't drink at that age, but to get them introduced slowly into the idea of drinking. But that's not the way it works. And I didn't know that either, because also when my children were young, I said, okay, a little bit, it won't hurt them. But the idea is that it hurts them because it's not okay for them to know that it's okay with their parents.
Sure. Okay.
Even though you may know deep down that they may be cheating or they may be drinking secretly, you need to pass the message that it's not okay, because kids will always do a little bit further, and a little bit more than you should deny them. So it was a learning process for me, an experience of a lifetime. So I'm sure for every filmmaker who does documentary, it leaves an impact on their lives, and it takes such a long time, huh?
Mine, 7 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
7 years.
Wow.
But of course, it's not just doing that. It's with all the other things that we do in our lives, and because it's a reality as well. So
how do you make ends meet, though? Because there's not money into. We know that we don't get any money.
Let's talk about funding.
Well, we're working on it. I mean, I hope that things are getting better in Cyprus about funding, especially documentaries. But it's interesting also there are not a lot of applications on documentaries. We still have a long ways to go. But I don't think I know a single director, either a man or a woman, who is entirely dependent on filmmaking.
Yes, I mean,
I don't know the producers. I'm talking about directors.
Yeah, directors, very different. Yes, I agree with you.
So do you work somewhere else?
Yes, I work at RIC. I'm a producer there.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. And I work on a bi-communal program, which is regarding peace and reunification. So hence you were saying the reason why I was able to stay in my job so long as well is because I actually believe in what I do. I'm working on something that actually means so much to me. So it's not something that gets stagnant.
Yes.
And again, that activism side comes out because, and I have that very much so, and maybe documentary filmmakers need to have that in order to be push themselves and be motivated to learn more. And so that element of me comes out because I want to instill change bring some information to the fore, which is maybe not so much what the mainstream media is doing. So, we bring in stories that you don't usually hear on TV. So I think that's so important to hear always the other side of a story, or both sides together,
There's a huge rise in documentary and in filmmaking anyway. And, in 2000, the millennium, I was reading an article about futurists, like people who could tell you how the world will be. And they asked them, what would the communication be like? And they said, well, at some point, people won't even write with words. They will communicate with images. You can already see that with the emojis and the videos and the TikTok and Facebook and everything. Everybody has the access to the equipment because at that time when I started, that's why I'm always a late bloomer. I consider myself. Everything I'm doing is late. We had 2 cameras that they weighed 10 kilos.
Yes.
Now a small phone and creative mind and hard work, you can do amazing things with no money at all.
Absolutely.
So there is, I insist that we shouldn't just make films to communicate only the imagery or just a beautiful story or science or history, something like that. We should communicate ideas and get out and get people involved in how the world is changing, how it's affecting them. We have a responsibility to bring stories to the people that otherwise may not be able to have access to. It's like give voice to the voiceless.
Sure. I mean, you see that in so many films of late, like in festivals, you see there's so many films where people were filming on their phones, when they're leaving from Syria and getting through, and borders and, the difficulties they faced as, asylum seekers. And 80% of the film was filmed on their phone. And because this is what actually, thank goodness we have technology like this, because you wouldn't be able to even reenact something like that. These people, sleeping in the cold or with their children. And it's like, you can write it as much as you want. When you watch that, you realize, okay, no one puts their child through that unless, it's worse where they are. It's so easy to judge when reading something. It's like, okay, hundreds of Syrians fled and, seeking asylum in Europe. And it's like, okay, when you read it, it sometimes doesn't hit hard. But when you watch that, when you see the fear in those children's eyes, you know. And that's why so many things have changed, and so many people, so many governments can't get away with doing what they do in many ways because of phones, because it's
different when you know it's true. Absolutely. You know that? I mean, there was a film, I can't remember the title, when a director filmed the Boyhood, or no, was it that he filmed the boy for 10 years, and he used that in, he made a film from that. I apologize for not remembering the title, but while I was watching that, I was thinking, it is different when you know that this boy is actually that age and is not an actor. It's not that it's a bad thing, it's just that it has a different impression in your mind, because it's beyond doubt that what you're seeing is part of reality. And if you make it, it's still extremely powerful, because some things you cannot, they cannot be filmed, they have to be created. And it's always powerful in a different way in both fiction and documentary. They're both needed. And I like the fact that they're, that they're merging. I really like it.
Yes, I mean, I do too, actually. I think for someone who's creative anyway, it allows you to expand as well, because, you know, there's so much, sometimes we need to move away from the reality and, you know, add a poem in there, or add an animation in there or something. I mean, the intertwining of these genres just makes for better film, which, you know, I find interesting. As much as I watch, you know, I like to watch different documentaries and different films. One thing that I will always say, and, you know, I think we need to work on more in our industry, is the storyline. I think because, I mean, I don't care how good your camera is. For me, you can have the best imagery. If that storyline isn't good, then you've lost me.
Yes.
You know, and I've watched so many new films recently, and I'm just, okay, we're in 2022, and are we still, you know, dealing with writing storylines where, you know, the same ending kind of, you know, for example, America Saves the Day situation kind of, but are we not able to go beyond that? You know, it's really interesting. I think we really, in terms of creative writing, I really, I look forward to seeing more, you know, in more in-depth stories, not to get away with just, okay, it looks good.
Yes.
Because I prefer it to not look as good, but have a great storyline.
Yes.
You know,
that's why there are so many films that with minimum budget, they make amazing stories, and, you know,
much better. But then again, it's the producers, the companies that buy these films, you know. I mean, you watch so many Hollywood films these days, and
it's interesting. I don't know if you have Netflix.
I do.
But it's interesting that a lot more foreign films end up at Netflix, especially in the last 5 years, maybe even so more after COVID. But I wonder if art film will end up being in platforms like that. And I think, it's inevitable, because people get more educated about film, and they learn more, they want to learn more, they want to be exposed. Although I think it's always probably a small percentage of the population, maybe. It's not like 50%, it's much smaller than that.
Sure.
But hopefully these platforms will be able to give us this kind of πώς να πω τη λέξη, films of value, films of artistic, I'm not sure how to explain it, but I don't know, I think it's important. It's very important.
Agree with you in the fact that we are able to watch. I mean, my partner and I are watching many more foreign films than maybe English language ones these days, because, again, back to the story, it's different kinds of ways of dealing with a subject, or different cultural, and Netflix is very good in that sense. I mean, the fact that it highlights different cultures, and it is very open to, in fact, I think it has a platform just for foreign projects, you know, films made in Spain and, you know, Korea and, you know, Turkey and Greece and whatnot. And you see, I love the different cultures that come through them. Like I said, instead of just watching your simple American film, which is, unfortunately, there's only a few that I've seen recently that I can say, okay, that one's that one's a good film. The rest are just like we're talking about TV, just like, the beginning, the middle, the end with the same kind of plot and scenario and whatnot. So yes, it's very good in terms of us seeing the world, like you said.
Yeah, but hopefully more stories, as you said before, more, not so much commercial stories,
Sure.
but more personal, more in-depth, perhaps more allegoric, more poetic, I don't know, more art films.
Yes.
It would be great.
Yes. Are you planning anything new?
Yes, I am. Two things. I am finishing a documentary I shot in 2013. That was a long time ago.
How do you get back to it?
Huh?
How do you get back to it? After leaving it after a while, is it easy to get back to it?
No, it's not. That's why. But there was a reason why I didn't get back to it. It's because I didn't know how to present it. Because I shot it over a period of 3 days, and it was this temple that they had to move to another temple, the Buddhist temple, and they had to move their tree with them because it's a holy tree. And the tree was in a bucket. It was in a bucket at the time, and then they had to dig it out. But by taking it out, they realized the roots went into the ground, and they panicked. So the whole story is about, I thought it was about saving the tree, but it wasn't about the saving the tree because the tree didn't need to be saved. It was okay in the ground. It was about taking their tree with them. And the way I saw these people there going after work at night and putting the lights on and digging and cutting and trying to take care of, to make sure it doesn't get hurt and it doesn't get disease and it gets moved properly and put properly in its place. I totally admire them. I respected them completely. And then I was comparing this to what we did in the trees in Eleftheria, in Makarios Avenue, and it was like, oh my God, it was... Anyway, I'm trying to finish that, and then I'm doing, parallel to this, I'm working on an anthology of short stories, 9 poems, written by my mom, which will never published, about Cyprus, and I'm probably make a long film from that. I don't know what kind yet, I'm experimenting. How about you?
I'm waiting for it to come to me. I have many ideas, but like I said, I'm someone who, especially after COVID, I realized I had a story, I had the contacts, I spoke to the people involved, and I think COVID scared people as well. I mean, of course, I completely understand because you've got masks and you've got illnesses and people are more concerned. People are hibernating in a way.
Yes.
They're a bit more afraid to be in contact with you. Yeah. And to film something like this, you need to be in contact.
Yes.
And that's how I work. As a director, I need to make the people I'm working with feel that I'm not there when I'm with my camera. We need to feel an epiphany for each other where they can act normally without, and that's very difficult in times of,
I love working with women, so I hope someday maybe we can work together.
That would be amazing.
Do something, and I would like to get a whole bunch of women together and do something, maybe about women, maybe about the world, maybe about whatever. I mean, it will be so much fun. I enjoy it. I don't know about you, but...
My story is a women's story again. It is because I think, again, you go to what... is important to you. And the story, if it does materialize, is about women's rights that have been abused in Cyprus, and the fact that because they're minorities they've been pushed aside, and for me, as again, that activist side of me and the injustice, I can't. It hurts me in many ways. I want to do more. It hurts me in the sense that, I feel that in the position I am in terms of, as a director, I can bring this, attention to this story. So I want to follow through because I believe I can. And in the meantime, learn more.
Yes.
I'm very humble. I don't expect, when I make a film, I'm not doing it for success. And I'm not doing it for fame. For me, the first thing is that I'm true to myself and the people that I'm filming. I mean, for me, these two are the most important points.
Yeah.
You know, to do a good job. You know,
Yes.
that's important. I want to be able to sleep at night. So, you know, because I don't know, with the conscience. I mean, I remember once speaking to gentlemen at a workshop, and they had done a documentary, and they said, you know, they were speaking and they were saying, you know, documentary is very much a formula. You know,
There's no such thing.
and I was still young. It was my first workshop that I went to, and I said, yeah, you know what, I don't want to be like them. I don't want no formula. I don't want my beginning, middle, and end to be formulaic. All right. And their film, when I watched it, was very formulaic. I could see that they had the best, you know, a great storyline in terms of, you know, this story is very interesting. They had protagonists that were, you know, interesting, but I didn't feel it. I didn't feel the need that to make this story. I didn't feel the urgency. I didn't feel the passion. And you know, if I'm not going to make a documentary a year, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But when I do make one, I want it to sit well with me and the people that you know, and the community that I made it
absolutely.
For, basically.
Yeah. Well, looking forward to hearing about anything you're going to do.
Yes,
It'd be very nice. And
it's
great.
wonderful
It's
to
great.
meet you.
Yes, me too. And Rita said to me, "Will you meet Yeliz?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I would love to. You know, I have to see her film." And when you send it to me and I watched it, and I said, "Well done. I loved it. It was, you know, your film made me cry because I remembered of the war. It came to me when I was a child, and we lost people. We never found them, and it's a very familiar story that resonates with a person, maybe with all viewers, that they had this kind of experience. And it doesn't have to be, it could be a friend, it could be a relative, it could be anybody, but under those conditions. And I really enjoyed it, and all the best if you make something else along that line. Yeah, it was really wonderful meeting you, Yeliz. I hope we can have the opportunity to see each other around anyway in the world of film or outside, and wishing you all the best. And thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, and you know, I'm sure we will be in touch.
Yes, me too. Me too. Great. Lovely. Take care.